What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another Unreal Engine 5 game development live stream where we're back in our Deck Knight project, a game built from scratch using Unreal Engine 5, C++, the gameplay ability system plugin, blueprints, and all that good stuff. So today we're continuing our object pooling journey. And today I just want to do, a chill Sunday kind of clean up of the code that we have so far. And I think there's some things that we can probably be doing a little bit better. And I kind of want to test those theories out. For example, when we do instantiate a bunch of this stuff, we do like a for loop to add things to the ignore actor when moving class or array, which I don't think is necessary. Also, when we do instantiate projectile from data, we probably only need to really do this component once when we initialize the components. And there's probably some low-hanging things to kind of clean up a lot of the code, like changing these things to T object pointers instead of these normal pointers, doing the for declarations where necessary, and then kind of going from there, because there's some things that we'll eventually have to move out as well, like we don't need weapon level and like can damage allies and all that stuff. I think it's all going to be handled out elsewhere. Same thing with projectile healing row, and all that stuff. All that stuff is already going to be handled in our data. So I think there's some good opportunities to do some refactoring, cleanups, and stuff like that. Hey, Mason Game Studio, how you doing? Thanks for popping in. How are you on this lovely Sunday? So let's go ahead and get started. So first, let us change some things to T object pointers, and change things so that we're not doing like the full includes or anything, and only taking in the for declarations when necessary, right? So we want to do, T object pointer, gas force projectile movement component. Add forward declaration. Don't need that, and then we're good there, right? And then we got all these forward declarations that are going to start happening there. So same thing down here, but with the sphere component. So grab you, grab that, clean that. And yeah, assumingly we need to forward it, or not forward it, but forward declare, just so we don't have to import everything like crazy. Let's see. Such, do we need to do the same? No. Cool. Okay, definitely have to do it here. Doing great. Can you say something about my game? Is it suck or bad or not interesting? Or should I continue to work on it or change it to something different? I don't know much about your game. So, if you're willing to share stuff about it, go for it. But, everything's subjective, so, take anyone's opinion with a grain of salt. As long as you're passionate about it, I would kind of just continue with it. But that's just me. So, we have the damage event stuff. So that's all of the initial classes and stuff, if I'm not mistaken. I think we can maybe start nuking out some stuff here as well. The damage row. Let me not do that just yet. Once I feel more comfortable with the refactor, I'll just remove everything. Weapon level can damage allies. And all this stuff should eventually get removed. So yeah, on hit is what I want to potentially change as well. Did anything break in the CPP? I don't think so. I don't think Ricochet is broken, so let me just get rid of that to do. Yeah, let's go to where we have event begin play, because we want to do post initialize. So virtual, I think it's void, post initialize components. And then from here, this is where I think we want to handle the binding. So add dynamic, right? This associate review. Obviously, we're gonna also try to change this to overlap. But for now, we'll leave it like that. I don't know if you want to do like so. If like this, I think we can also just start prepping the overlap event. It's on your YouTube channel. So yeah, right now I'm not gonna take the time to look at it. We kind of want to focus on this project. So if you want to share more about it, feel free to share it on our Discord, and we can get back to it later. So join the Discord, share the game there. Oops. There's the post initialized components. Now what? We gotta do the overlap event as well. So where is the on hit? So right here. So we should be able to do something similar. On overlap. Let's see. Projectile, collision comp, on component, begin overlap. So you look at this. So get the signature as well. Let's grab you, bring it in here. So we have it. And then we can do so on again overlap. We gotta just kind of copy a lot of the same stuff. So maybe we can do visits. Do the same thing. So overlap component actor, other comp. So let's just do it one by one. Okay, so auto completed, so that's nice. So we should be able to just nuke this out. We have that. And then down here, be able to do a dynamic this and then that. And that should all be kosher. But for now, let's not worry about that one. And let's compile, see what happens. So if that ends up working good, then there's some changes that I want to make, I think, to the collision profile or preset, just to double check that. And then we'll see what we could do about moving things over to the overlap. And then we'll also have to pass along hit event data. I am curious if we need to pass along a custom hit event struct. We'll see. Oh. Kitty here, just a big stretch. Gotta take a photo. Okay. So now, yeah, let's go into our project settings. Collision. Let's go to our projectile. So we are doing so query and probe. I think that's okay. And everything seems to be good. If we want to switch, we'll have to see if we get the overlap events with that kind of base setup. But that seems to be okay. Let's just double check if we get hit. So this dummy should shoot off 10, I think. Yeah, so I am getting damaged, which is good. Missed that one. Fine. Up. Let's see. Yeah. So, good there. Looks like we got ourselves a bot in Discord. Not Discord, sorry. Twitch. Bye-bye. Get banned. So let's see if what happens if we do switch over to overlap. So there's a couple things that we would need to do, because there is the instantiate collision. So we're doing the profile name, all good, enabled. So we do query in physics, which maybe is not necessary. Let me look at the again. Yeah, I think that's unnecessary. Let's see if we do the other ones. So query and probe. Hello, rebite. Yeah, I'm not sure why. You know, I don't know how AI bots really work, but you know, you got to do what you gotta do. So set notify rigid collision body. We don't need if we're just doing overlap. And now let's kind of copy some of the stuff that we do on begin overlap, or sorry, stuff that we do on hit. So we'll still call it hit targets. We'll do all this. And then, yeah, there's this ricochet stuff for now. And then there's this callback event, which I don't think we will need at some point. So I'm not going to include that. And then there's this hit delegate and projectile hit. I think is fine. And we need to pass in sweep result instead. And just to be super sure, this on hit's not doing anything. Let's do that. Yo, what's up, Ace? For popping in. Good to see you. Good to hear from you. I see your TikToks every now and again. Hope you're doing well. Yeah, so what we're trying to do today, basically, I've been watching more tutorials and just learning more from Tom Lumen's course, just about some things on collisions and projectiles specifically. So I'm just doing a brief refactor of what I have based on what I've learned, trying to use overlaps rather than hits in this case. And we're working with our object pooling for our projectile so that we can try to reduce any sort of bottleneck with spawning projectiles, because we'll be using the pooling system. So we're just doing some stress testing, and we're going to try to make sure that we bring everything back up to the same parity as it was before, where we have homing and ricocheting, damage and healing, AoEs, all the visuals and audio, and all that stuff. So then we're kind of just slowly building things back up. Yeah, it has been a long minute. But yeah, I'm doing good. Yeah, I'm living life. We got ourselves a kitty in the basket. Hopefully you guys can see her. She's knocked out. Yeah, let's get back in. And let's see if we lost any functionality. Okay, so we did. So I think the issue is some of the settings, I think. So what I want to do is so under shared, we have our projectiles, right? I'm going to make just a blueprint of this class so I can just look at some of the settings. By default, knowing what we might be able to set as like a base value. So gas, course, projectile, right? We go this up. Yeah, definitely an EP kitty. I'll tell you. She's EP as hell. We have all this initial speed stuff. We have homing. We might want to mess with the tick interval later. We might want to interp movement and interp rotation. But when it comes to the actual collision component, so it doesn't seem like we get the overlap event. So maybe that's because of the collision setup. So if we go back into the preset, and for those that we say hit, we just move over to overlap and try again. Hey, Kvarza. So let's try that again. So we're expecting an overlap to happen. Damage, yes. So basically now we're getting the same result, which is good. I've been slowly working on my next game. I got the gameplay done, and now just very slowly working on assets. Oh, that's great. What's your game about? If you have any links to videos or anything, feel free to share it if that'll help communicate the idea to people. So we got our projectile working technically. So let's look at some of the stuff here. So I want to set some initial values for some of this stuff, like for the component, for example. We can go into when the component is initialized, right? So we have open component, so we can probably go down here to be like, hey, if projectile movement, well, it doesn't have to be here. It can be in the constructor where we have a bunch of the properties already kind of being set Anyway, so we could just say projectile movement comp tick. Set component tick interval, and we could just say 0.1. Maybe that's not a big deal. We'll have to see. So this one, true, does normal simulation ticking up if false is halted, but no, tick. Sweep collision. I don't know if we can really do interp movements and stuff, so let's see. Projectile movement component, interp movement, true. Projectile movement comp, the interp rotation, true. Maybe we could just say projectile movement comp simulation false. We just see what these do if we see any issue, but also at the same time we can get rid of the hit event, I think. Well, we need to carry over everything else that was missing, so we are adding it into our actor, saying collision enemy, or disabling it more or less. Then there's this ricochet aspect that we'll put back in. And there's this as well, which may be redundant at some point. So hit component. I'm assuming we can get like overlapped component. And then we need to grab some of the information. Or is it other comp? Maybe it's other comp. And then we need to do sweep here. And then we need to do sweep result dot impact normal, I'm assuming. Again, this might need to be removed anyway, so maybe it's not a big deal. So let's get rid of you. Let's go into the header, find that on hit. That's not needed anymore. It seems like it's down here. Get rid of you. You can add an AI comment. Let's see. So yeah, I have nothing right now, and I'm keeping it hush-hush because I want people to go into the game as fun as possible. It's an open-world horror game based on Five Nights at Freddy's Security Breach. Okay, cool. Best of luck. Hopefully everything continues to go as smoothly as possible. Okay, so now we're moved into overlap, I think. We can remove this. And the next thing I want to remove is initial check. Hey, Dankar. So hi, please tell a little bit about delegates. I mean, I can also throw in some documentation resources for you guys, just in case. But the short of it is, delegates are just events you can fire off. And these delegates can have any number of parameters, and you basically bind to when you want to listen for that event in different places, so that, you know, when something happens, you can just immediately respond to it. And so we're using, you know, we were using on hit and we're using overlap. These are just built-in delegates from the collision component, but you could have delegates for any sort of event that you might need, just so you don't have to poll every tick or at different intervals checking if something has happened or if something has changed. You could just have events that tell you when something has changed, and you can just listen for it, bind to it, unbind to it when you don't need it anymore, and things like that. My goal first is to release a demo and go from there. Yeah, I'm on the same ship. You know, I'm slowly making progress. I think I keep sidetracking myself into doing other things instead of working on the primary game loop. But I think we're slowly getting places. I have to eventually start working more on AI and like the general game loop of, like, you know, waves of enemies and different modifiers, global modifiers, and things that can kind of inject randomization into things. This also seems redundant here, right? I'm doing this in the instantiate collision data, right? No. Where else am I calling this? So we're doing it there, here, there, and on begin play. So seems like unnecessary to do that in so many places. So let me move this into the collision data. Instead, thanks, I gotta look at these while studying them. Works for me, I keep getting sidetracked with fan art. That's true. It's hard to kind of switch hats sometimes, working on different things. So kudos to you to keeping it up. So must be difficult. Okay, so that's instantiated. So now back to what I wanted to do originally, because like the problem with what I'm doing right now when these things are instantiated, when we're basically pulling the projectile from the pool and updating its data, is in order to make sure it doesn't overlap or, deal damage or get hit by something that it shouldn't, we're doing a check for get all actors of class, getting all the classes of character, and checking if they're an ally or not, and essentially adding them to this ignore when moving, which we really shouldn't do, because we're doing that for possibly dozens of projectiles at once, and it seems unnecessary. We should be able to just move this now that we're doing overlap. We should be able to just do that when we overlap the actor, and then keep going if it passes, or follow the same kind of destroy stuff when we get there. So that's what we're going to try to do now. So we can essentially move this into the overlap. So let's go into the overlap. On begin overlap. We do other actor. So if we cannot damage the target and we cannot heal the target, we just return. This should work, I hope. So let's go back to where we just were. Let us comment this out, and we'll check if that functionality is preserved. And we'll see if we can actually compile. And if we can compile and everything, I'll kind of do a recap of all the stuff that we've been working on for those who are just joining us for the first time or haven't been watching for a while, just to recap it for everybody, because we've made I think, some significant progress. Because what we're trying to do, we're trying to have different weapon classes so that you can have a primary weapon and a secondary weapon, where right now the secondary weapon's always the bow and arrow, but later it could be like a magic staff. I want the secondary weapon to be some sort of projectile-based weapon, and then your primary weapon is a melee weapon. So right now, we built up the daggers. We did a first implementation of just the sword stuff, but we're going to move that to a sword and shield dichotomy for that weapon. And each weapon will have a basic combo, a special attack, some defensive maneuver, just to kind of solidify that loop for that weapon. The bow and arrow will not have a defensive action or anything like that, but then what we have is these cards you can activate that I want to start building up more. And these cards you activate at runtime. You'll see them on the bottom there, where you can amplify your weapons, change how they behave, change how you proc different status effects, and all of that stuff. Okay, so what broke? But anyway, So for now, just to kind of show you these things, you know, we have our basic melee combo, and then you have a bow, which I don't think does anything because yeah, the projectiles are broken. You have a special, which does this like kind of spin move, which I need to figure out exactly what it will be doing. But you know, you have a basic combo. You hit, hit, hit. You can do a dash attack or roll attack, spin, move around and maneuver and stuff like that. And then you have these cards that you can activate and grants you active abilities. So this one turns you into a fireball when you activate it. Then you turn into a fireball, apply burn, and you can kind of just build on top of that. And so you can build decks that grant you active abilities, passive abilities, summon cards, instant effect cards, just to help you kind of push through all these waves of enemies, and you earn points to spend on these cards as you're dealing more damage or doing cool things and point modifiers. And then, yeah, your goal is to survive and not die. So let's see what broke. My suspicion is the stuff that we did in the constructor. So I'm going to say these things. Let's see if I'm right. And so, yeah, once you have your primary weapon and your secondary weapon, you just have this kind of interchangeable loop of using these weapons, activating abilities. So you could say, like, you know, you activate a card that can turn you into a fireball, or you activate a card that turns all your projectiles into fire-based projectiles or ice projectiles. Or you could say, you know, if you have an active card and your primary weapon is the daggers, you have a special attack that does something. You know what I mean? So, like, you could take the dagger, spike it into the ground, it just sends out like a fissure, something forward that deals some sort of damage, does some sort of pushback. And so I want to try to find a balance of what would make these weapons more interesting, how these cards are going to be worthwhile. But yeah, right now we're just kind of sidetracked with our projectile system, using object pooling to kind of make sure that there's no bottleneck with the projectiles, so that we have the means to do other stuff. Okay, so yeah. So the second interval, not great. And yeah, it doesn't seem like that does anything. Okay, let's take out all of that. And let's just see if we see the improvements back. Because it seems like either this passed or there was just something weird going on with the thing. So let's see if we get hit with the projectile and get the damage. Okay, so we got there. Did I receive damage? I don't think so, but let's see. Okay, so something broke. So do we get here? We do. So we're doing all that. The hit result. Okay, so we're actually hitting the status effect arena. And not the player, so let's see. So some of these also are like overlapping with the dummy character that's shooting them. So we probably want to do this first. First and foremost. And most likely, when we want to do begin overlap, we do all that, we get to projectile hit. Yeah, essentially we want to make sure we don't destroy this thing. Let's just do another reload and see if that made any difference for us. Okay, we shoot. Okay, so all of them go, yeah, but they are overlapping with some of this stuff. Well, let me look at this real quick. Sometimes things are hard to select. So status effect area, damage collision, overlap all, dynamic. It overlaps with projectiles. So what would be the best way to do this? So we could just ignore projectile. But now they're not. Yeah, they're also getting stuck. They're not dealing damage anymore. What changed? How did I mess that up? Can I? So I'm assuming this passes, right? No. Are we not? Let's see. So elf, male character. Yeah, it kind of this does look like a plasma grenade. It's a sticky grenade. Let's see. We have the capsule component, which should be doing all of that stuff. And the mesh itself does all the querying and everything. But yeah, the capsule. Yeah, it's ignoring projectile. This. Okay, so character mesh should be overlapping. So maybe that's part of the problem. So projectiles. Character mesh. Maybe for this, the default response should be overlap instead. So let's see if that made a difference. Okay, so we got there. Okay, so we continue. And we should get damage, I assume. Did we get damage? Yeah, it looks like we did. Yeah, 10. Okay. So how do we look? Are we getting stuck randomly again, or no? So far, no. That's good. But now, if we go into the NPC, or should I say, this NPC, if we make him the same team as the player, which is team 0, it should pass through me. Okay, so it doesn't. So let's just try again. Now there are different teams. What happens? I think it's because that we're. Let's see. Let's put a bool. Well, not bool. Let's put a breakpoint. Let's see what happens. Oh. Well, no. Hold on. It said shoot, right? I think it's because in the state tree, I think we have a check. So let's look. So combat, we have test combat. We have delay and then shoot, right? So we get to here, and I'm assuming we check if there's a target threat, right? And if not, we just end the ability. So for now, let's just continue. Let's not rotate this thing. Doesn't look like we use that target for anything else. This should hopefully result in shooting. And then we get here, and ideally it goes to return. Which I don't think it did, but let's see. It didn't field it. Okay, so perfect. And that's because we're on the same team now. However, because it's a damaging one, we could, in our damage data, say it can damage allies. And then this should hit me and deal damage. And it does. Cool. And inversely, we could make healing. I'm going to say 10. And so for now, we'll just do healing. And this should, if I deal damage to myself, this should heal me if I touch it. Yes, and I have some healing bonuses, so I get more than 10. But it is healing me. And then I also, if I make this 1, so again, we're on opposite teams now. And I say, if can heal enemies is false, this should pass through me. And it does. And if I say heal enemies, it should heal me. So let me just deal damage to myself. Bam. Cool. So that works as expected. So let's just do the damage again. So I was relatively successful, I would say. And now, what do we need to do? So we need to send hit events and everything like that as well. But yeah, let's just do another quick stress test. So if we do number of projectiles to 10, we make it 100. It should be not too bad. But we're not getting damage again. Did I? Everything, it should be damaging. We're on different teams, right? So what changed? How did I break that again? But I don't know. Okay, now it works. I'll take it. So let's see. And then stat FPS. So we're staying relatively stable at 60. But, you know, we're also in editor. So we dropped to 40 a little bit, but again, we're not going to be spawning this many. And also I see myself just like passing through things sometimes, unless like, I guess it's because the projectile collision settings are small, but maybe that's okay. I'd rather be fair or in the favor of the player than the other way around. So yeah, let me go back into shared and projectiles. Let's go into, well, there are some suggestions from yeah, I decided to download and try out this Odysseus from PewDiePie, so having the local AI stuff. So I've been using it a little bit. It's pretty useful so far. I'm trying to explore all the possibilities with it. So are we setting simulate physics anywhere? No. Simulate physics. No. Minimize collision channels. It's fine. Disable unnecessary events. So I think by default we don't simulate hit events anymore. Let me just make a gas force projectile. See what it looks like. So we have collision component. So visible hidden in game, fine. Yep, generate that. Good. Dynamic obstacle, no. Receive CESM channel. So mobile only. I mean, well, that's for mobile, so I don't know if that really matters. So we have sphere radius and line thickness, whatever. Include component and H-lot, sure. Start with tick enabled, yes. I believe we are disabling tick when we don't need it or when it's returned to the object pool. We can double check that. So when we return object pool, what are we doing? Aggro component, movement component, collision component. So we can also just be sure. So projectile, collision component, set tick enabled. Plus, wonder if I could set component tick async enabled. And if they'll have issues. Projectile, collision component, false, projectile. So let's actually do that when we instantiate it with the async enabled. So instantiate collision data. So we could do it probably here. So projectile, collision comp, set, tick, enabled async. So if spawns a task on the game that will call. So, I don't know. Doesn't seem like it's what I think it is, but it's fine. So that's the collision component, and most likely the movement component needs to function in a very similar way. So movement component, set tick enabled false. So where else do we do this? So we eventually get to return to projectile to pool, and then we do here. So we can maybe do set component async like that. And I know that there's got to be things we can get rid of at this point. So there's target death callbacks. There's again overlap, which we just added. So apply damage pipeline to hit target. I believe that's all new. That's all new. That's the projectile data asset. Can heal. I think that's something we can just remove. Heal allies. We can remove. Healing curve. We can remove. Projectile healing. Remove. Apply healing to target on hit. I think that's something I'm doing anymore. Just this implementation. We're probably going to get some errors on the blueprint side when we switch this over, but I think it's fine. We'll start with healing first. Then we'll work on damage after that. And if this hit targets, can projectile ricochet. I don't know if I want to have like ricochet data, or if this is something somewhere else I should manage it. Because maybe there's a card that says, okay, all your projectiles ricochet now. Well, I feel like maybe that could be like an optional constructor or something. We'll have to see. So we'll leave ricocheting alone. Is actor and ally? We leave that. So process this event. So I think this is not necessary anymore, right? No. This is legacy, I think, still, but we'll leave it. Target actor is fine. It's all the constructor stuff. Our delegates, bam. Okay. Yeah. Doesn't seem necessary either. Let me just remove that because it's just distracting. And down here. Okay. You can have this delegate callback, sure. Yeah, apply damage to target pipeline. Good. Okay, so I'm thinking as well how I want to handle like the hit reaction side of stuff, especially on the enemies. But it's going to be everywhere. And of course, it's a gameplay event, but that might need to eventually change to a state tree event. But I'm wondering if that needs to be, can that be static data asset information like the struct, or should I just make it also a exposed struct? And can that struct be part of like the different payloads as well? Now let's deal with errors. I think if I try to play, we'll get something. No? Okay. So let's go and type in projectile, and let's just look at what's broken or what doesn't compile. So there's arrow base, which is fine. The example though, not not as good. So it's just that event, which is fine. So yeah, we're executing a burst. Then we're doing this, right? Which is simply like a gameplay event. Oh, the kitty's awake. You gotta do a cool 360 no scope, Google. To get comfortable again. He's quite the cutie. Oh yeah, there's camera shakes that maybe should just be handled in the spawned gameplay queue. But yeah, send gameplay event to actor. There's some stuff that we probably should, like how best to do this. Like, is it going to be just data asset? Should I just have like a section in the data asset for like the event? So for example, let's see, MPC projectile. So we have like this data asset, right? Should there be a section for like this hit event? Like data, collision, pooling, and then like hit event. Oh my god, she's don't do it. Okay. And if so, which parts of the event is needed? Or should this gameplay event payload be included inside of like these damage data and healing data? To me, that makes a bit more sense. So we can at least start with that and see how it goes. So what you'll notice is when I fire the bow, oh yeah, I shouldn't be. And again, that for some reason that doesn't deal damage. Like things break so easily. I don't know why it's breaking. Is it because it's the tick async? Who knows? But let me fire. Yeah, that didn't work. Uh-oh. Alright. Panic time. So set component tick. Let's start from the top. So yeah, collision is that, that's that, that's that. It's all fine that they're all false. But then when we eventually get to where we get to this, so can I just set it back to this? And should this be first? But yeah, let's also include in our data, so healing data and damage data, new property, do all that, but let's Bring this up, so it's going to be F gameplay event data. I didn't want to include the whole thing. That thing? For some reason it's not letting me. I want the forward declaration, please. So, hopefully that's kosher. We'll do the same thing. Then, oops, something's not going to compile. What's wrong? Remember. All right, we'll deal with the compile error. Why can't I write something like that? So, is it because I have to do the whole class and not just the struct? Let's see. It seems like that's fine now. I hope. And let's just also triple check everything, because again, we weren't really getting the overlap events again. It could be because of the ticking aspect of it. Oh, oh my god. Just kind of went for the jump. Sometimes I don't think she has any idea how expensive this setup is. She just goes for it. All right. Open things up. Let's check. Again, we're going to be spawning 100 projectiles from this dude, but it's fine for now. We'll change it back to 10 after a bit. Did we get hit? No. Okay. Why? Again, we're getting stuck. So something about... Let's make the collision true, at least. Does that change anything? You know, once I find the sweet spot, maybe I just won't fuck with it, you know what I mean? Am I getting hit? No. Did something not save? Like the project settings? Projectile, yeah. The overlap. Okay, I think it's because I'm not connected to version control. So let me just do that. Because yeah, I feel I'm taking crazy pills sometimes. Let's see. Do this again. Check out file. That should hopefully fix it. So now. Okay, so still no. But maybe it's because character mesh also has to be overlap. Not quite there yet. Let me close out of that. Let's do a recompile and reopen. And let's see what data is saved. Okay. So let's double check our project settings once we get this up. Project settings, collision. Yeah, so this is still block. Why? And these are not overlap. So something is funky. What does this look like in principle? So this, I think, should work. The confusing part is why I will have to keep doing it over and over again. So, yes, that works. But if I... What if I launch the editor manually, not through the recompile, but through here? Does everything get reset again? And if so, why? We'll have to look into that. Because that's not very cash money. Let's look. Project settings, collision. Okay, so now everything's okay. Overlap, overlap, projectile, overlap, character mesh, overlap. So seems like that part is fine. So let's try it again, where we say the collision component is false by default, and then we do the, oops, we do this other one async. So this is false when we turn it. Can I say set component to async? Okay, let's see if we get the same issues again. And if we're good, then at that point, that's where I will want to start passing along the hit information. Because again, to me, I don't, like, possibly we don't need to pass along all the information of that gameplay event payload structure. And that might just be more confusing to the user. So let's just double check again our project settings, make sure we're okay there. Overlap, overlap. Okay, so it's assumed that's all good. So now am I getting hit? Yes. Am I hitting? No, but that might be because of my setup for the arrow. So basic range attack, right? Let's just be sure we don't have anything. So damage over time. Yeah. So that should deal. Are we on the same team still? No, we're not on the same team. So this should hit. But yeah, it's also hitting these things. I think there's an aspect that I forgot, right? So collision, overlap all dynamic. Let's just ignore projectile. But again, not sure why my arrow is failing. So let's, for now, NPC rain, right? No, NPC projectile. Let's just make sure that our NPC won't spawn a bunch of projectiles for now. Let's see. Let's debug this and then we'll move on, hopefully. So again, it doesn't hit. Yeah, let's open this up. Let's generate overlap. Not generate overlap. Begin overlap here, here. So it's not even recognizing it, but that could be because our dummy NPC. Let's look at our components. We got capital component, and we are pawn. So possibly I need to just switch this as well. Something else, because this is mesh, character mesh, so that should be overlapping. But at the same time, let's go into my character. So elf male. So the capsule is it's also custom, so no, I don't like that. But mesh is just mesh. But it doesn't generate overlap events. But does that matter? Let me just set it to generate overlap events. Okay. So for whatever reason that did it. So we need to probably set that. So in the mesh, right? So most likely, let's go to guest character. Could have some stuff, and I also need to refactor this to get rid of some of this multiplayer bullshit. There's also crouch, which I don't need, I don't think. And there's this one. The default collision response. And I see. So what are some of the components? Is it just called mesh, right? I should just be able to say mesh, generate. What's wrong? So member is inaccessible. Okay. I do get mesh. Okay. That's okay. So let's save everything. And then we'll double check. Quadruple check. And then hopefully at that point. Hey Dallas, I think I caught the end of the stream. We're getting close to it, yeah. But better late than never. But yeah, there's some stuff that I want to refactor this week as well with all these multicast things that I don't think we need anymore because we're not multiplayer. That's just kind of bloating up our base character class. So let's see now our mesh. Yeah, so still no. So let's see. Mesh. Not sure why that didn't work. Okay, it's just okay. So we're doing it when we initialize the component and not at thing. So it should still be fine. So let's see if we get hit with the overlap. I forgot we're not spawning it for the enemy right now. Let's just see. Did they get hit? Yeah. Good. Let's turn our guys back on. And let's throw in a fresh dummy. Or let's just see if it works on a dummy we spawn. Default, so we go like that. Hit. Good. We do that. Hit. Good. Okay. So yeah, now we gotta do the hit event. And again, I'm trying to think how best to handle this. There should be, let's see, projectile base, right? Yeah, this is also bad. But so again, we're doing this, right? So I'm curious what should be actually exposed for the end user, right? Because like if I do my range basic, like right now I have this on hit event, and if we split this, it's that whole thing, which I don't think is necessary. So we might want to make our own lightweight version. So I don't think we need like a context handle. Or if we do, we construct it ourselves at runtime. So I think we need target tags and instigator tags. I think we need... I think it can be assumed instigator is just spawning it, so we don't even need that. So hit event, the optional object, context handle, and these tags, I think. So I think there can be a way for us to make that a little more lightweight. So we could make a new struct here. Did you try the Animusha demo? I did. I posted a little bit about it in the Discord. I liked it. I like the, obviously it's very parry block focused. At least that's how I just kind of forced myself to play it. But yeah, animations look really cool. I like the one, I forget what they called it, but the one mechanic where if you both hit each other at the same time, you have like this like melee barrage, I guess, mini game. I thought it was really cool. Then yeah, you got perfect dodges, you got the parry, you got the perfect parry. Yeah, like I haven't tried the other Onimusha games, so I don't know. I think it's a lot different than the older ones, so I'm not sure how fans respond for that. I like the environmental interactions you can do too. Like there's like those like wooden planks on the ground, you can pick it up to like block arrows and stuff like that. There's some cool potential there. I also played a little bit of the Mortal Shell 2 beta. Having some fun there. I like the combination of the melee and the ranged weapon. Kind of is how this game is working. I'm not too far along. I got the actual shell and I'm fighting along. It's also very parry focused, and I think potentially parry is too strong, at least with maybe it's because of the shell that we have by default. Because I think it does the whole parry aspect, but still very crisp animations across the board for Onimusha. Much slower paced combat, very Ghost of Tsushima coded. Not saying that's a bad thing. Definitely, I think it's probably like a very strong departure from the original series. So we're gonna do F gameplay tag on hit event. Then we do optional objects. So I think we gotta do property. We'll do I think it could be a T-weak object pointer. possibly we can pass in the weapon information if we wanted to. Not sure if we need to. What else do we need? We need instigator and target tags, and I guess potentially the context handle. For now, we don't. Let's not care about it. It doesn't look like a unique game, but very polished. Yeah, that's a good way of putting it. I'm curious how it would evolve, but yeah, for now, it played well, I'd say. I actually don't think we need target tags. Let me just put a comment in here. So what's the word that I'm going to say? Will. Oh. So additional instigator tags, let's say. And then we'll say appends the instigator actors gameplay tags to pass along. Reload. We can also have another one for state tree. Could be a pool. We send event to state tree. I'll say true, but we won't act on it just yet. So we get this, and so then ideally we just pass along this struct instead. So then we can get rid of this. And then in our projectile, on begin overlap, when we do all this stuff, so we eventually get to here, this is where we can apply damage. Or we would say, so we would need to get the gameplay ability system component, I think. So we would need to say if a U ability system component target AC. We'll do that, but obviously things are wrong. So instead of doing define component by class, hit actor is just that, right? But there should be like a helper thing. No, like I think, is it U gameplay ability system, or is it just ability system? U ability system statics? Or there should be helper. The U ability system library. There's get ability system component. Okay. And yeah, we can say that too. Like we could say IK. So we should be able to say what? I guess it has to be the U gas source. this to include that instead. Gameplay build system. That. Past. Should be able to say target ASC. Handle gameplay event. Gameplay event. Sync. Yeah, we need to just pass along some of the data as well. Let's figure this out. So we gotta do F gameplay event data. Event data. So we should be able to pretty much bring in that, right? So hit event data. No, sorry. Projectile damage pipeline data dot damage data dot on hit event dot hit event tag, right? Kind of convoluted, but that's what it should be. So magnitude damage hit instigator target optional object. This, I guess we could just say, if hit event data, or I should say if projectile pipeline data damage data dot on hit event dot say it. If not, I guess this could be a so if that's valid, this so if it's valid, we pass it. If not, we pass it on this. So we should be able to get rid of that. We can probably make this a little cleaner like that. Magnitude, fine. Tag, yes. Instigator target, yeah. Then we gotta say hit. I feel like they, well, this could probably be cleaned up or unified in a better way. Probably ask ChatGPT or something for that. But so hit instigator tags. Target tags like this. But can I say F gameplay tag container? Target tags equals target ASC get owned. Okay. That's not a thing. Thanks. Get owned gameplay tags. So we essentially need to say that. And we can get that. But yeah, then we need to append some stuff. So we need to say F gameplay tag container, instigator tags. Instigator tags dot append with hopefully okay, and then we just say like that. It's all the tags, and then we gotta do the target event stuff. So we should be able to say hit event data dot target data equals. I think I can use that same viewability system blueprint library. Make, what is it? Just target data hit result. So ability target data from hit result, and we just pass in. In hit results, right? So there's some things I think that can be moved out. I feel like a lot of this upwards part could be moved out, but because I feel like it's gonna be a lot of duplication. But eventually we get here. So we need event tag. So we're gonna grab. I guess we can grab it. F gameplay tag. Event tag equals that. And then we can just grab this. And then we get hit event data. And that's it. Hopefully. More or less, we gotta do the same thing again. So to me, this seems like a good opportunity to construct a good amount of things. By default, like I should be able to just yank this out, do it up here. This goes up here as well. And I could just say event tag, right? So that's not needed. This would need to be scoped in, but then, yeah. So this will be moved up here. This can be moved up here. This can be moved up here. So the tags themselves probably also up here. Very similar song and dance. And I'm hoping I can do this effect. If this, the saying could be moved to an if statement, but I don't think that's going to be true. So essentially, I just have to do one more check to say, like, hey, so if target ASC, like that. And then I should be able to do something very similar for the healing data. What we would do in healing. Everything else would be the same. You know, I could also do one better. Let's put it down here. But really, all we have to do is just add this information. Not have to ask that question twice. Just say, hey, if like that. I think. So yeah, we just wrote a bunch of code. Let's see. See if it'll work. And compile. Oh yeah, we've been streaming for almost 2 hours now, so we should be also wrapping it up. So, attempted to reference a deleted thing. So, what's wrong? I say is valid. Let's see. Okay, this projectile class is getting pretty beefy. Okay, so that worked. That's good. So yeah, we'll do a quick check on at least the player side when we hit the dummy to see if we pass along the hit event, if we'll actually get the hit reaction, and if everything's gonna be fine. So fingers crossed we did this right the first time. If not, we'll pick this up during the week. So yeah, we have on hit event. Again, this stuff is getting beefy, but you know, so be it. We have gameplay event on hit, so we'll copy that. Optional object, we don't care right now. Instigator tags, we'll pass in reaction.hit. And yeah, send the event to state trees. So I'm thinking that will be enough. So on hit, event optional object fin is invalid. String. Mhm. Okay. Not sure. I'm just gonna put in. So that's actor. I guess it can't be actor. So let's save everything. Projectile data. Let's go back to that struct. And we will make it a object instead. And I hope doing that won't break anything else anywhere. And we'll see if we get that problem. Okay. And then if we can prove that that works, then this coming week, we'll fix the ricochet implementation. And after we fix the ricochet implementation, we'll do the AoE implementation. And then part of me wants to refactor how we're doing area of effect, but I feel like we should focus on other things besides that. Like more of the weapons again, try to get more weapon classes in, and then work on more cards and start working on enemy types and stuff like that. So does this compile? Yes. Cool. All right. So do we get a hit reaction from the dummy character when we hit him with an arrow? No. That's fine. Let's see. Do we at least get to the breakpoint? Let's get to the breakpoint. We don't. So that tells us plenty. So what does this look like? So we're doing all the hit data. Good, good, good. Instigator's fine. Maybe it's the way I'm getting the target ASC. No. It's there. Oh. Okay. It's in the wrong scope. All right. Last time. And then we'll be hands off for the day. So while that's compiling, if you aren't already following me here on Twitch, a follow would be greatly appreciated. We try to stream Tuesday, Thursday, Sundays, about an hour and a half to 2 hours each time. So your support would be greatly appreciated. And for those watching on YouTube, make sure to subscribe. We did hit over 100,000 subscribers on YouTube, so that's some big news. I'm going to get the silver play button soon, so once I get that, I'll make a post about it. And again, and for those who are interested, definitely check out our Discord. We're playing a lot of games. We're playing Fate Keeper. We're doing Mortal Shell. We're doing Ominusha. We're doing all of that cool stuff. So feel free to join there as well. So now let's test this out. We got the breakpoint again, but it's fine. Do we get our hit reaction? We do. Awesome. So that works. Awesome. So everything is good. We're slowly getting there. And again, My main concern is possibly how big this data is. Like if you want to do damage data, how much you're having to construct, but maybe it's not that big of a deal. It depends on, I guess, usability. But for now, it is fine. So we don't need to show any collision stuff. We know things are working. So after we set up the AoE stuff and the ricochet stuff, I'll also want to make an IM GUI where we can track all our projectiles. So we can see if they're active, if they are active, who's the instigator and owner, and just making sure we can track that properly. Since there's a good amount of people watching, we have about 5 people on Twitch. Let's go ahead and raid Dev Row. So thanks again, everybody, for watching. I hope you enjoy the rest of your Sunday. Have a good week coming up. Do your best. Never give up. And I will see you guys in the next stream. Have a good one, guys.
Kevin! Je vends, Cherry's game dev. How are you doing, my friend? What have you been up to? We are currently working on a targeted item system. So if you use, for instance, our new shashlik, then you get into this mode, which currently means that we can walk around and use this. However, we can't use it right now. That's what I'm working right in this moment. How have you been? How has your stream been? That was one of the clips ever made. What you've been working on. If you want to share something, feel free. So maybe we need to ISO character. Object reference, used character. We're working on the projectile pooling refactor. Oh, I see. Did it work at the end? Class default, duration, struct item. Why do you have an item? Get VPC survival and get combat. No, not combat. Command. VPC command. No, not add. I'm pretty sure this character has this component because it's a child of the main character. He has the component. Inventory, no, RPG system. That's why I couldn't find it. Need to rename that. I will slowly bring things back from the original implementation. Whoop. Yeah, damage, healing, overlap events, working, the general instantiation, and return the pool logic in place. Hash cease to add back ricochet logic and AoE spawning back in, then it should be back to how it was. That's cool.